Hello and welcome to the pilot episode of Taken Out of Context. My name is Clive Christopher. I am your host. There will be guests in the future. I am a film director. I've been on Netflix with George Knapp in Investigation Alien. I live in the Phoenix, Arizona area. Most of my research, actually all of my research, about 90% of the research is done here in Phoenix. So, taken out of context, this idea really comes from a multitude of different things. I've had a lot of people that I've known. They've been telling me I should do a podcast. This show was really brought by the public, from friends, people that I know, family, and then of course some of the fans that have watched the Aliens Uncovered series. I saw the Phoenix Lights as a kid. That really was my drive for UFO investigations. I've traveled all around the world. I've been to sacred sites. I've taken spiritual journeys, walks. But taken out of context, this show, the idea, the title itself, a lot of misunderstandings and things can be misunderstood through text and, getting back to conversation, talking to one another. And the idea, the goal of this podcast is to, take those interactions that we're having on social media and other platforms, and we are looking to bring them to the forefront, bring that art of conversation back to reality, having people sit down, talking, and really getting to the bottom line, which is understanding. I have a couple of guests lined up. I just wanted to, like I said, test this pilot. Me, I like to really make sure I can do it myself. So we got 2 cameras running. We got the Rodecaster here. And what I wanted to do with this first episode, which was requested by a few people, was to actually break down the first 2 films, which is Aliens Uncovered, E.T. or Man-Made, and Origins. Now, as you can see behind me here, I got both of the posters. So, I've had a few people reach out because if you don't know, if you watch my movies and you've actually taken the time to message me, I do run my social media. So I take the time to respond. And when you interact with your fans, they have questions, obviously. And some of the questions that are somewhat repeated through different people, can you break down certain scenes in your film? For example, in E.T. or Man-Made, in the beginning, I had a fan reach out and they wanted to know about the footage that I show where I'm walking through what looks like a very old city. And this really was something that was like a driving force behind really wanting to put this podcast out, because I do tell a lot of things in code. I show things indirectly, but completely talk about something else. Completely guilty of that in the film, and that is intentional. So when it comes to E.T. or Man-Made, I got to be honest. I knew I could make a documentary. I didn't even know all the things that would come with it, like IMDb, producer credits, writer credits. I had no idea. I just knew I could make a film. So that's exactly what I did. And I started it with YouTube. It was on a YouTube platform that I had, the All Tales. And I sold my series on YouTube without YouTube getting a dime. So I'm not going to show you or talk about how I did that, but there are ways that you could put your videos, your content up on YouTube, and you can make money off of it. And like I said, YouTube doesn't see any of your money. So I did that during 2020 and 2021. And then I got a hold of Breaking Glass, the distribution company, by the end of 2022, I believe it was. And no, the end of 2021. And they told me to combine the 2 episodes that I had on YouTube and turn that into a documentary. And got to be honest, I didn't even know I had a documentary at the time. Once again, I was thinking YouTube series. So I did what they asked, and I took those 2, switched some pieces around, and I had a documentary. I was shocked. I didn't understand. I didn't even realize what it was that I had, and it played really well. So that distribution deal was done. They didn't have to invest any money into production of it. It was already done. So it was a low risk, high reward, right? So that came out, and I just pretty much rode the momentum of Jordan Peele's movie. For example, in Nope, they asked, why do we have to call them UAPs? Why can't we just stick to UFOs? And I explained that. Now, keep in mind, I had no idea what Jordan Peele was doing. It was, almost like the stars just lined up perfectly, Even the movie Prey, the new Predator movie, was just released. So I was just really riding the momentum of Nope and the new Predator movie. And so I did, once again, use social media. You can use, all the different platforms out there, and, promote your films, and people watched, and thank you, because that first film, you create something and you believe in it. And, I didn't see what was going to come after that film, especially 20 other films. But so some of the things that I guess were intentionally looked over, now that the series is done, we can actually go back and look at it. So let's go back and discuss the opening scenes in Aliens Uncovered, E.T. or Man-Made. And if you're not familiar, the poster is right there. Aliens Uncovered, E.T. or Man-Made. It's available on Tubi, Prime, Roku channel. If you don't want to watch it with commercials, go to Apple TV or Prime. And if you don't mind commercials, go to Tubi, go to Roku channel and check it out. So the opening scene, I'm talking about my childhood, moving to Phoenix, treasure hunting, Indiana Jones. And then as I'm a teenager, I talk about the Phoenix Lights. And witnessing the Phoenix Lights really, I look back, and I was a mature teenager. I was 15 years old, going to school, maintaining good grades. I was working, hustling at the airport, actually making some pretty good money. And then I was going out, hanging with my friends. I was living with my grandmother. So my weekends were my schedule was, school work on the weekdays. And then I'd hang out with my friends at the mall, Mill Avenue, on the weekends. So yeah, it was routine, pretty consistent. I didn't want to mess that up. So I knew the grades were important. Like I said, at 15, pretty disciplined. I saw the Phoenix Lights. I was just in, my own element, heading home, and boom, you see the Phoenix Lights. Now, that was I do realize that was like a maturation, a process that I realized that I was getting older, because some of the stuff that I used to do as a kid was no longer a part of my life. Playing in the dirt, riding bikes with my friends through the neighborhoods and stuff like that. I had a little bit of money now, so I had friends with cars, so I could catch the bus if I needed to. I didn't have a driver's license. I was not able to have a car, but we would, that was the thing to do. You'd catch the bus and go hang out with your friends and spend money. So the stuff that I was doing as a child was no longer taking place. Now, as I'm going through the opening scenes, I mentioned, getting older, and I'm in college, and, my eyes have seen things that many have not seen. So when you see these scenes and then you see the ancient city, this is actually in the Asia Minor. Where I'm located in specific is it's in Turkey. It's a place called Ephesus. And Ephesus, if you're not familiar with it, that is the city that belonged to the Ephesians. So in the Bible, there's the book of Ephesians. They were a really significant group of people. I believe 4 to 5 of the apostles were Ephesians. One of them in specific was John. And on this trip, I was there to write a paper on Ephesus and the Church of Ephesus. Now, this paper that I wrote, it was recognized as a graduate level paper. I wrote it as an undergrad. And the reason being, one, because I went to the physical location. But when I wrote about the Church of Ephesus, I had mapped out the perimeter of the physical church, where it was. I found the locations, the ruins of it, and mapped out the perimeter of the church. And then I pretty much paced back and forth as I documented and talked to people and the locals and took notes and, writing and stuff like that. And the reason why I did that is because in that church, that is where John wrote First John. So at some point, as I'm documenting and writing notes and writing even parts of the paper, I was in the same location, the same exact spot where John was when he wrote First John. So also Ephesus, the Church of Ephesus, is also in the book of Revelation. If you're not familiar with the book of Revelation, that is the last book in the Bible, but it's written in code. It probably wasn't even supposed to be in the Bible. But I have studied the book of Revelation, and I've been to 2 of the physical locations of churches in Revelations, one of them being Ephesus, like we're discussing now. Now, my theory was back then in 2011 when I took this trip was, is it possible that the angels of the 7 churches were not actually men? And the reason why I asked that question is because if you know anything about the creation before humans, you know that obviously it was the angels, but there's a hierarchy of them. And there's from 1 through 10, and specifically, real quick, a side note, number 5 is the seraphim. And if you heard of St. Francis of Assisi and his sighting, is what happened is he says that he saw Jesus and Jesus appeared as a seraphim. So there are levels to a hierarchy of angels. And a lot of the times, well, growing up, I have heard that the 7 angels of these churches were just men who were delivering messages from God, the word of God to the people. But I like to think outside of the box a little bit. So I decided, or my thought process was, what if they were actually angels in human form? Because the last ranking, number 10 of the hierarchy of angels, it says that these angels appear as men. So I had asked my mom, who, she has a master's degree in theology, and she was a preacher. I've talked to a few people. I would like to actually sit down and have a discussion with Wesley Huff about this and some of my discoveries. But I had thought, well, if these were really angels in human form, and there's other stories that show where angels hide in human form, how could I prove that? So in Revelations, it talks about the 7 victorious things, or the 7 things that the victorious angel would get. So whoever this victorious angel was would receive these 7 things. And, my mother would, she would really get upset at times, but, I would tell her, obviously we didn't use the word aliens in those times, similar to the word marijuana. Those words are not even 500 years old in human history, but they in fact were around and existed. So that means that the names have changed over time. Well, when you look at marijuana and what it was called 3,000 years ago, obviously we know that it's cannabis, and there's thousands of years of documented pictorial evidence of cannabis, the medicinal healing traits, and everything that goes around with the plant. And it's the same thing with the word aliens, right? That word didn't exist 3,000 years ago. So what did we call them? And in my opinion, I think that the ones that come from the heavens or up above in the skies and stuff, I believe that they are the creation of prior to human beings. So I'm using the book of Revelation to support this, and then some of the stories that are in there. Now, like I said, I'm not somebody that just picks up a book and reads. I like to physically go to the locations. And the people in Turkey and Ephesus, and shout out to the locals of Ephesus, they were really the hospitality was amazing. They welcomed me with open arms. I had went on this trip. Now I went to other locations. I was in Rome and Sicily, but this was a trip that I had taken. I was gone for about a month. The family went with, and it was just an experience. But as we're going through the scenes in the beginning, and I'm walking through Ephesus, you'll see that my shoe is right next to this white stone with writing on the white stone. And actually, I have a few books to decode ancient Greek. So what you're looking at right now, I should have bought it here, but I have a book that shows me how I can decode ancient Greek. And so while I was there, I was looking at the different stones that had writing on them, and I was trying to find a specific name, because in Revelations, when it mentions the 7 things that the victorious angel would receive, if these are truly heavenly beings, the only thing that we would be able to see with our eyes is the name that's written on white stone. So as I'm going through decoding and writing notes, I find this stone that you currently are looking at now. And the coded name on the stone does mention an angel's name. So, 1, I'm shocked. 2, if this angel went through the process, and keep in mind, I'm thinking of them as not as humans, but angels hiding in human form and the rebirth process. If this is the case, the name that matches this angel sends me right back to a location that I'm very familiar with. And that's why you see the phoenix with the fire and the sun and everything pop up, because I discovered some information while I was there that led me back to where I was from, where I was living this entire time. But I make this connection, and I make that connection through locations, composition of the ground, minerals. It's a multitude of things. So in the documentary, you see the different cases, and we break down the differences between UFOs and UAPs, and how we're using light scattering processes to identify these objects. It's really easy. During sunset and sunrise hours, those are the best times to spot UFO and UAP. It's a little tougher during clear blue skies, but overall, we show you, based off of the Arizona backdrop, how we're identifying and then going through the process. There's one where you see the streak through the sky, and we identify it as a 737 Boeing. There's something that goes past, I believe it was on January 24, 2015. A lot of the incidents that I filmed in this documentary, E.T. or Man-Made, happened in 2015. Keep in mind, I wasn't even looking for UFOs at the time. What I was doing, I'd found out that NASA's New Horizons, the satellite, was going to fly past Pluto. So I got the idea to use my telescope and photograph all of the planets in the sky. So all of the UFO videos that I captured, that I filmed myself in this documentary, are pretty much accidental. I was not out there searching for UFOs at all. So that's why you see a lot of planetary bodies. Venus, I have the Venus shot where my daughter and I were outside one night and we shooting in thermal, and I see something fly past the lens. I had no idea what it was. I was at a focal point that was like deep space. I was focusing on Venus, and something flew past the lens. I was able to track it and capture 3 images of it. And throughout that year, I was capturing a lot of things because cameras were intentionally focused on the skies. And when it comes to intent, it is so important when you're trying to communicate or even channel UAPs and things of that nature. So I wasn't even filming UFOs, and next thing you know, that February incident where I saw what we now know as the TR-3B coming from pretty much the north, traveling south, and it was heading in the direction of Luke Air Force Base. So when it comes to ET or man-made and even the naming, and I bring up Luke Air Force Base and that TR-3B because when you look at the last 2 incidents, which features Martin and his incident, that was over Luke Air Force Base. And then we also look at the Black Triangle that I had filmed and photographed. And then shortly after that, a couple days later, the black helicopter had flew over that area. And that really felt like an intimidation tactic because at the time I'm familiar with black helicopters. I know if there's one in the area, chances are you're going to see a UFO. If you just kind of point your camera up, you'll see something. So I knew that black helicopter because especially when that black triangle was there, had I not have focused on the helicopter that flew past, I would have eventually caught more images of that black triangle, but I was focused on the helicopter. Then the writer, his name is Owen, he came through. I took some pictures. I thought something fell off of him, but that was the UFO that was in the sky. And it really did feel like an intimidation tactic. Now, it wasn't until I emailed Seffi and she came back with the response of, well, why would they be using a military attack helicopter if they were searching for something? Why wouldn't they just send a police helicopter or something like that, But she pointed out the searchlight. She pointed out certain things that getting out of the emotion of what was happening that made me realize that the military was searching for something. And it was in that area because that helicopter had circled the Black Mountain track 13 times. So we went back out there and later that night, and I learned that, the areas are restricted for a reason. That was where I found the rabbit hole. That night I found the rabbit hole, and that discovery led to a really deep dive in the history of the land and everything that has gone on to lead up to where we are in the present day. So when it comes to the naming of origins, aliens uncovered origins, I am specifically talking about the origins of modern aviation, advanced military aviation from the 40s up until the present. So really the origins of military infrastructure and the different craft and things that are going on in the desert, because it really starts in the 40s. And what the military planned, it was elaborate. It was meaningful. Their plans. They knew what was coming. So in the next episode of Taken Out of Context, I am going to discuss Origins and what was hidden. The one thing about Origins is, looking back, let's say 20 years from now, people are going to look at Aliens Uncovered Origins, and I promise you, it was so well hidden that people are going to eventually, once it's discovered, and however social media will be at that time, or the way we communicate, it's people are going to be talking about Aliens Uncovered Origins, because there's information in that documentary that could, because I did it so well, it's probably why I'm alive now. It was thought out very well, and if there was somebody of higher power, agencies that watched it, like I said, it's cleverly done. Nobody noticed it, and the cool thing about Origins is we actually, Origins came out in 2023, I believe April of 2023. And now you're hearing of a popular term called the range, mentioned by Jake Barber. And immediately, anybody that lived in Arizona immediately knew what he was talking about. So we talk about the range in Aliens Uncovered Origins. And then we're going to, I'll think about it. Let me think about it. But we're going to discuss some of the things that were hidden inside of Aliens Uncovered Origins. So this is the end of the first episode, the pilot episode of Taken Out of Context. My name is Clive Christopher, and see you next time.